Welcome to the 365 Message Center show, where today we'll be talking about some changes around the Microsoft Teams system tray icon. Yeah, make things a bit more cohesive, bringing it all together. We'll talk about that for a little bit. We've also got a message that's quite interesting. If you've got a newsletter, do you have a newsletter? Well, you'll be able to create it soon in Outlook, and we'll see what that looks like that soon. And for our third message, we don't have one because we're doing a short show today. We really couldn't pick a third thing from this, because if we did, we'd be mentioning everything. So, episode 368, let's go.
Okay. That sounds like we only have two messages, but that's not true. People, stick around. We have more than two, but yes, it's going to be potentially a shorter show. I say potentially because we have, sometimes we've said, oh, this is going to be a short show, and then it turns into a really long one because we have a lot to say.
Be 39 minutes. Whoops.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I did see a comment, and please leave comments on our videos and YouTube. And for those that are listening on the podcast, you can hit us up on all socials that matter at 365MCS. I did see a comment. Someone said something to the effect of, they don't talk about the stuff soon enough. There's too much stuff happening at the beginning of the show. And I'm like, well, chapters. Hey, we have chapters, and you can fast forward, and we're doing this for free, so maybe not complain so much.
Oh no! If they paid for the subscription, then they could jump directly. Yeah,
that's right. If they paid for a subscription, I would create them a link to the messages myself and personally email it to them every time.
Yeah, click this link to skip the blah.
Yeah. And remember, everybody, you can gift. There's a gift button down below in YouTube. You can give a gift if you like. Help give Daryl some coffee beans. He needs coffee beans.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, your rant was apparently 100% on point. And we want to hear more ranting, perhaps. So thank you, Warren, for sharing that. Maddie, great updates. Chat is still on point. Yeah, look, I think we're happy with our community, our little gathering of followers, and we thank you for the engagement. And look, we do take on board the feedback as well. That's great feedback.
That is great feedback. Speaking of feedback, Daryl, maybe we should take some of that feedback and get started with our first message.
Yeah, you do that, because that first one's yours, and I want you to really be quite clear on distinguishing between things in this message.
Okay. Microsoft Teams. Distinguish invites among attendee, presenter, and co-organizer emails. MC1009930. So I read this title. I'll admit I got excited before I clicked it. I read it and I said, oh, so I'm going to be able to create separate email with separate email bodies to my different roles of people in Teams when I'm sending the invites. This is great. And if you thought the same, then I think you're going to be disappointed. I think. So what this is saying is Teams is going to send a different invite to your attendees versus your presenters, for instance. And so your presenters will see just who the other presenters are, and attendees won't see that. Attendees will just get an attendee email invite. It doesn't say that the body is going to be different. And that's what I was wanting, is things like, I want to send a message to in for the attendees. Hey, invite your friends. Here's the form to have people sign up. For whatever. To presenters, I wanted to say, please show up 5 minutes before this meeting time so that, we can make sure we're all on the same page and your audio and video and all that's working. So for my town halls, I kind of want to be able to do that. Well, that's not saying in this message. It doesn't say that we're going to get separate. And since there are no screenshots, hello team, we need screenshots. There's no screenshots, there's no video, there's nothing to show us what it'll look like. I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's just in the invite itself, in the calendar entry, attendees won't see presenters listed. I'm thinking that's what it is, because we are definitely left with more questions than answers on this one. So maybe hit the thumbs down on this message and say we need more details and screenshots and all that. But so I don't have anything else to say about this because there's no other information. So I will just talk about when it's rolling out. Targeted release, early March 2025, expected to be completed by mid-March. General availability worldwide, mid-March through late March. And then GCC High, early April 2025 through mid-April 2025. So, Daryl, I guess we just go on to the next message, and I can't wait for you to give me some insights into managing functionality in Viva.
Well said. I will, if you're licensed though. Microsoft Viva Insights will be included in the Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription. Way! MC 1009917. Why are we excited about that? Well, Insights was something you could either get licensed for separately, you could get it in the Viva suite, and Insights, we do have a freebie version of that, or rather included as part of the M365 subscription. What did that give you? Gave you the ability to see how you're working and giving you tips around good work practices. But this gets us into that tier where we can get insights across our team, get insights across our organization, and that is going to be included in the Copilot licensing. Why is that? Because we've seen the story develop that the way we can get insights about how people are using Copilot is via the insights and the Microsoft 365 Copilot dashboard, or they're calling it Microsoft Copilot dashboard. I don't know. We keep going between these names. So it's going to be a service plan. So if you have a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, it's going to be a service plan underneath that you can tick a box and say, I also want to give or turn on this additional tier of Insights functionality. This actually also becomes important, Daniel, because traditionally with Insights, Viva Insights, it's one thing to have the ability to see insights about yourself, but another level to contribute your details, or rather your data, to this pool of information that leaders, managers, analysts can take a look at and put it alongside enterprise data and get some more insights alongside that. So this is what it is, Daniel, is it's not just giving you access to that level of information, but from a Copilot perspective as well. Tick, I am now going to be part of a data set, and you can learn more about my ways of working, but more importantly, this alignment with Microsoft 365 Copilot to give you more information about how people are using that. Is this going to be useful for adoption efforts?
Maybe. I know I'm not. That's a simple answer, but it feels like Insights is something that I see used quite often in organizations, but not in the paid version, and it's in. So I do have some customers that have it, but not many, and you couple that with now Copilot, and it's like it's tagging along. So here's another Viva product that is now either, well, we've seen demise of several apps in Viva, and we've talked about that on the show. Here's a product, Insights, that is now part of the M365 Copilot subscription. Now, I'm not saying that's only the way you get it, but it is the way you're going to. So will it increase adoption? Yes, but I'm not sure how much. I don't know. It's to me, it's more interesting to see the movement of a Viva product, or at least the granting of a license in a different way than we have gotten it before. I don't know. We've gotten the Viva, some access to Viva Insights for Copilot users, right? Because they got to see a little bit more about what was going on there. But now it's basically full service of Viva Insights for those users.
Yeah. I think it'd be useful to tell a holistic story that when we look at, if we were just to look at Copilot and say, oh, great, they're using it across Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they're using it this frequently, fine. But if you don't see that alongside other forms of work data, what are your working habits? Are you using Copilot more often outside of work hours? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. And what kind of story could you tell around that to help with productivity? But this was supposed to be a quick message because this was supposed to be a quick show. So what can we say more about this? Lastly, there are some new limits around how this will work. So we will increase your minimum assigned Insights license threshold for new tenants from 10 to 50. So you will need to have at least 50 people to get this level of Insights. And I mean that in a double meaning sense. But anyway, this will be, when it will happen? General availability worldwide will begin rolling out mid-March and expected to be complete April 2025. I rate that to be one of our top messages, yes, and that's partly why it was one of the two that I introduced. But Daniel, I want to hear more about ratings and how that can affect other products in Microsoft.
Microsoft Teams ratings and reviews for apps within Outlook.com and Office.com. MC101150. That's a lot of ones.
Wow.
So this is talking about bringing the ability to give ratings and reviews of apps for inside Microsoft Teams. It'll be visible for that. And so when you go and look at an app for Teams, you'll see that rating and be able to read reviews and give reviews. That's interesting. And when we talked about should we talk about this or not, it was more interesting in thinking about the history of app stores from Microsoft and how that works with, and when we're talking about ratings and reviews, is this a good thing? I personally feel like it's good to kind of see whether an app is got good ratings. Maybe I can trust it a little bit more. I think we all do that, whether we're on our phone or we're looking at a restaurant or whatever. We look at the ratings to see how it stacks up. But with the history of the SharePoint App Store, everybody remember that? I do. And the way it was not well managed, does that give any pause to the, is this a good thing or not? And to me, it kind of does. I feel like some of the problem with like the SharePoint App Store was lack of really getting people to endorse the apps they were using, give feedback. Another major part of that, I know there's people actually, I know a big, huge part of the downfall of the SharePoint App Store was the adoption of creating apps and the maintaining of those apps. And those developers it just wasn't feasible for them because people weren't buying stuff. And so it just wasn't there. I get it. But part of that experience, though, was how do we know if an app is good or not? And I just don't think it was maintained very well from Microsoft's side. So we're going to be able to see those ratings and reviews in Teams for these apps from the Outlook.com and Office.com way into those apps. So great, wonderful. Is it going to be a good thing? I think we'll see. Does it bring the insights that you need to whether or not your application, that you're trying to add to Teams is a good one or not? Maybe, yeah. I think it can. Is it going to bring confidence, more confidence? Maybe. Hopefully. I just don't... I'm kind of in a wait and see on this one, is what I'm saying. Okay? That's where I'm at. Targeted release... And let me say, this is not new functionality. They're just surfacing it, right? So it's not like they're reinventing the wheel here. It's just, does it help? I don't know. We'll see. That's my opinion. Just one man's opinion. That's all. Targeted release late February, so soonish, nowish maybe even, but soonish, and expected to be completed by early March. And general availability, worldwide, early March through mid-March 2025. So be looking for that. And you know what else you should be looking for is something coming, changes to the app tray, the app in the system tray icon. Daryl, tell us all about this. Please, sir.
Well, yes, I will, Daniel. I will, because it's super exciting. Look, I actually don't know. Personally, do you use the system tray much for looking at Teams and seeing where they're online? I found that those sorts of things were more useful when you had an app that would sit in the background more often, and maybe you wanted to go down there and quickly change your status or something like that. But yeah. Okay, so Microsoft Teams updates to the Teams system tray icon and menu MC101152. It is, I guess, removing a couple of things, bringing a couple of things together. Let's start with the together part of it. We have Microsoft Teams Personal and for work. And, okay, we can make a little comment here that, the personal thing's not really taken off as much as Microsoft would hope. But to help us reduce the confusion, because we've had these two icons for Teams, for personal, Teams for work, and one was built into Windows. It just got very what's going on here? To tidy things up, they are bringing the system tray icon two experiences together. If you do have a personal account, you're going to see that manageable and visible from the system tray icon in Teams. Alongside your work. Secondly, what are you going to be able to see? The account that you're signed in with and the status, and that you can change the status with that menu. There's the typical, still same way of being able to collect support files or even quit Teams from there, perhaps. But one thing that is being removed is the ability to open Teams from the system tray icon. I can only imagine the little telemetry around that and how many people open Teams from a system tray icon. I don't know. But that's really the key changes, and it is going to be targeted release, begin rolling out early March, expected to be complete mid-March, and general availability worldwide, GCC, GCC High, DoD, rolling out mid-March, complete by late March. We will finish on, I think, probably the most interesting thing in this week's show. I'm allowed to say that. We're allowed to say that. We're allowed to have opinions about things. That's part of the fluff. It's part of the reason that you listen to us. Tell us, Daniel, what is this exciting thing happening in Outlook for Windows?
Well, it's updated. They released it one day and updated the next. Updated.
Already?
New Outlook for Windows and web. Outlook newsletters. MC1009916. So this is an interesting update in that you read it, you look at it and say, okay, so we're going to be able to create a newsletter in Outlook. There's going to be a way to click on in the navigation on the left-hand side. What is that called? I can't remember.
The app rail.
App rail for Outlook. Yeah. We've got calendar, we got people and groups and to do. And now we're going to have another one for newsletter. And so you're going to be able to create a newsletter in Outlook and then send it out. And it's going to function as a newsletter, whatever that means. That's something we can dive into. But so this is a new functionality that will help you in the communications realm. Okay, great. But didn't Microsoft already dive into and have a functionality for creating newsletters in Microsoft 365?
Yes.
Yes. It's called SharePoint. And we've been doing it for a very long time. Now, I find most organizations either have they either do it in SharePoint, right? You create a news item, a page, and you either publish that in SharePoint specifically for people to just go there and look at it, or you publish it in SharePoint and say send as email, and you send it to a distribution list or whatever. But it's a SharePoint page. Or they have some other way of doing it, like they creating in Word and save it as a PDF or something. I mean, or some other third-party system, right? But so we already have a way to create newsletters. This is just, I guess, yet another way to create newsletters. So this will be, again, it's new Outlook. We'll be able to create this newsletter. And it doesn't tell you in this message very much at all. In fact, it doesn't even show you what the process is. But if you click one of the links down at the very bottom, so there's two links. One is a learn.microsoft article. That's good for the technical folks to understand what in the world's going on. And we'll talk about that in a second. What's happening and how do you manage access to this? The second link, though, is kind of the end user support document page that talks about how you create it and send it and all. So the kind of, if you go into the technical, the learn.microsoft article, and my first question was, where is this being stored? Because I come from that SharePoint had this functionality where they introduced this new template, which was called an email template for a page, where it was one column. It was intentionally to be really only used in email, to be sent out via email. And then they kind of killed that. They didn't kill it. They just made every page that you create, a news page, very receptible. That's not the right word. Acceptable, receptive. One of those words. It worked really well in email. Let's call it that. Accessible. Maybe accessible is the right word. I make mistakes too. So they just said, okay, all the pages you create are going to be able to be emailed and they'll look great. Cool. So the real question here for me is, why is this different? Why are we creating this and not in SharePoint? But the actual answer to that is these are actually created in SharePoint. Let's kind of. So if you look at that learn.microsoft article, you scroll down to the absolute very bottom, because, that's where we put our, when people talk about compliance and security, we always put that at the very bottom, right? We don't make that priority. Anyway, so at the very bottom of that article, it talks about purview, discoverability of newsletters. So sent newsletters, it says, are just in email boxes. So that's how you would discover it. So that tells us where are these stored after they're sent? They're stored in the mailboxes. So that's it. And that it doesn't say that's the only place. It just says that's where it is. So I have to think that's the only place, maybe. But draft newsletters and comments on newsletters are actually stored in SharePoint Embedded. So if I were going to do Purview Discovery, I would need to look in SharePoint Embedded sites as a data source to be able to find that information. Daryl, do you find that interesting? That this content is being stored, and the comments part is another one that I'm kind of like, wait a minute. So how does that, readers can react to your newsletter. They can also, comment, integrated, meaning in the email at the bottom, they're going to be able to leave a comment. Well, those comments are stored in SharePoint Embedded. So there's some sort of hook here from SharePoint to Outlook. I find it interesting.
Yeah, there's some pieces to this puzzle, aren't there? Firstly, it is authored in SharePoint Embedded, so that means, okay, there's containers. Is it just storage space, or are we leveraging some SharePoint functionality? That end user document does have some nice screenshots that give us some clues. You can create things based on a template. Oh, okay, templates, great. Scroll on down till you start to see things like adding images and components. Text and images and styled quotes. And over on the left-hand side, there's this ability to add sections as a way of structuring stuff. This is starting to feel real familiar for people who create SharePoint pages and perhaps the news templates as well. But it isn't the same thing. That's what we're pointing out. And, we've been on the scene for a bit. We kind of often question, hey, well, if your team's done some great work over here, why aren't you leveraging the same thing over here so you don't have to teach people to do the same thing, managing two sets of code or whatever?
Yeah.
But it looks like you can create pages. The authoring experience is back-ended by SharePoint Embedded. And I wonder, Daniel, because I know there's another service that runs out of SharePoint Embedded, Loop. When you react to an email today, it's just a little tick box thing and a message goes back to you to say, someone liked your email. Yeah. Thank you. Great. But the comments part of it, could that be powered by Loop? We'll dig in over time and see.
Yeah.
I can't see any other way except, are you just going to add a reply to this newsletter and then it's going to be like reply all to everyone's newsletter email?
We definitely don't have insight into what that means, right? Because if they leave comments, who gets to see those comments, right? Is that you're, as a newsletter author, you get to see the number of comments and reactions, but is it because there's an administrative section as well to this where administrators can go in. We don't know what it looks like or how they do this right now. And I guess it's Exchange administrators can go in and see all newsletters and who the owners are, which kind of is that a site in SharePoint Embedded? Is that a Loop component? Who knows? We don't know yet. There's a lot of questions here. But I, as a user, if I leave a comment, then I get the email, leave a comment. Does Daryl see my comment when he opens the email and scrolls down to the bottom? Don't know. Do I get to see Daryl's comment to my comment when I open up the email later? I don't know. So there's definitely some questions here. It feels like to me, and I don't have any insights into this that are NDA or anything. So I think we're both just kind of guessing here at this point, based upon it's educated guesses, but it's guesses. Is that this is the actual replacement of that SharePoint email template that we had, and they scrapped it and said, let's do it in Outlook and re-engineer the way this works. And it's just kind of like they said, yeah, there's a need for this, but let's do it in Outlook instead, and we'll use SharePoint Embedded instead of because there was confusion as to why would I create an email template in SharePoint versus a regular news when news can be emailed too, right? Like there was confusion. I feel like this was just maybe, okay, we'll kill that and we'll do it this way. Not kill it, but we'll change that functionality in SharePoint and do it this way. So
I'll just add too, Daniel, like there's a lot, because we're talking all about the creation process and authoring and where stuff lives, but it's really quite thought out in terms of how it works. That there's group pages for, here's some newsletters that you might be interested in. There's a way of managing your subscriptions. There's a way of exploring other newsletters and subscribe pages. Analytics for newsletters, for groups and individual newsletters. So it's like they're really creating this pocket of, we're going to communicate to people using newsletters. And look, we've got to read this a bit closer, but is this all just internal? Is it newsletters that we can send out? And are we going to see that external?
It is internal.
It is internal. Okay.
It does. Yeah. Well, it says coming soon up in one of the top paragraphs there, to create, distribute, and track success of their internal email newsletters. So it is focused internal. I mean, it's still, again, it plays into this. Is this, it's SharePoint Embedded is playing into it, and is part of this conversation. But again, just like to your point, is it Loop? Is Loop involved at all? Maybe, maybe not. Is this just SharePoint? Because SharePoint pages, we can do comments.
Yep.
So what is this? We don't know.
That
Yes?
Learn article talks about where you would find the draft or the completed article. Where do we find the comments? Where would those turn up in a purview case that we try and track down?
And the comments will show up in Sites, so it's SharePoint Embedded. So when you're drafting it, it's in SharePoint Embedded. When you send it, it's in the inbox. But is it still in SharePoint Embedded? I would think so. Before I said it doesn't say that, so maybe not. But I would think it was, if I'm going to do management of it, it would still need to be in a central location. So it's still in SharePoint Embedded, and the comments of it are in SharePoint Embedded. So I don't know. There's a lot to dig into, and we don't have all the information, unfortunately. But looking forward to learning it.
Yeah. When will we? When's this going to arrive?
Well, public preview, mid-February, so already-ish, and expected to be completed by late March. Rollout will begin in targeted release and will proceed to standard release. I've never seen that before in my life, said that way. General availability worldwide, we will begin rolling out early August and expect to be completed by early September. So we're very, we're on the entry of this, right? This is public preview. It's not even targeted release. To me, they're still figuring some of this stuff out. So public preview nowish, and you'll be able to, use it soon, hopefully, and give some feedback on it.
Yeah, they want in tons of feedback.
Yeah, and they will get it. I'm excited about it because I think organizations should do newsletters in a way that is more centralized and more reusable. So again, we'll need to talk about those templates. How do I create a template? There's going to be all these kind of conversations, so that newsletters can be more effective and people can actually pay attention to them. Because some organizations are sent out and nobody pays attention. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what Microsoft does here, and hopefully it'll be successful. We'll see.
Yeah. Episode 368, this was the short episode that became the standard-sized one. But, we got stuck into the interesting message at the end because that's who we are. We work through things and we have questions.
Well, we're trying to bring value, Daryl. That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. So, look, thanks for attending. Thanks for watching. Thanks for attending. Did you let anyone in from the lobby, Daniel?
I sure did. They're sitting right there, right across from me.
Okay.
Yep.
But I'm so used to running training and stuff. Sorry. See you next week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.